Hallo miteinander, I'm Gish86, and this is the demo of Labyrinth of Touhou Try. Today we have a boss that more people will struggle with than the first two. In fact, we even had a thread in the Steam forum where someone said, "I don't get it, how do you anything?" Well, we're going to learn of the something you do here. The Shikigami Master is designed in such a way that only two characters you've recruited can cause meaningful damage to it. Those would be Alice and newcomer Patchouli. All your other damage dealers have a different job, which is destroying the enemies the boss routinely summons, so that they don't self-destruct in your face. You're not under excessively much pressure to beat them, as these exploding Katashiro take really long to get their turn. Still, you can't ignore them, as it'll always cost you a precious team member. The Shikigami Master will summon minions whenever he slips under certain hit point thresholds. Over the course of the battle, 9 lackeys will appear in total. That this happens so often is actually somewhat to your advantage, as the boss always spends his own actions on the summoning. Keep the damage high on him, and you will pretty rarely see his actual attacks. The Shade's defense is a whopping 280, a number too high for Nitori, Cirno, Mei-Ling, Reimu and Aya to punch through at the moment, even when some of them can target elemental weaknesses. This third turn of the boss just now would have led to a cast of Encroaching Nightmare had the summoning not taken priority. Patchouli is actually able to survive this attack, hence she's in the first slot. The Asthmatic Magician is an absolute powerhouse in this encounter, but you have to be thoughtful in how you use her. Metal Fatigue is the spell she can use for the highest damage, yet it is naturally inaccurate. A couple of seconds ago, we cast it only to miss all of our targets. If you want to avoid the gamble, Ginger Gust will never let you down, but deal noticeably less damage. The hit chance of Metal Fatigue is 88%, so I still take the calculated risk very often. Since we rely so much on our two magicians here, MP management is quite an important factor. Sure, any character can focus to recover some MP, but that is still the equivalent of skipping an attack. Renko can actually help out significantly in this regard, as her Eager Support spell grants other characters more MP than its use deducts from Renko. We've had the misfortune of Patchouli being inflicted with Terror. Just like in Labyrinth of Touhou 2, Terror eats a few MP from a character whenever they get a turn, adding to their potential scarcity. If you retreat someone to the reserve and let the ailment run out there, the effects seem to diminish. The spell you have to remove conditions like Terror and Silence belongs to Renko, and only has a 50% reliability, so you can't do as much about this as you'd want to. So not only is Renko somewhat useful here, Maribel's Hazy Barrier defense can help save lives. I try to use it frequently on Patchouli and Alice, and just like last time against the Nightmare Avatar, don't even bother using Maribel for offense. It's unexpected that the Secret Ceiling Club is so helpful here, even if all they can do is cheerleading for the rest. Perhaps our college girls are not the world's most pathetic goobers after all. Encroaching Nightmare returns every 6 turns after the third, and that's a fact I would not properly consider here. Very few characters could be configured in such a way that survival is possible, and Nitori is definitely not among those. It's too bad. Still, a character like her is fairly expendable for this encounter. All physical attackers do similarly well against the exploding Katashiro, and so long as there's anyone left who can fight them, our strategy should be sound. 433 damage, was it? Yikes, how does Encroaching Nightmare reach those numbers? There's a lot to it, and a lot you can do about it. First off, it targets a character's mind, taking into account 50% of its value, and uses 72% of the Shikigami Master's magic to attack. This alone is not actually too impressive of a formula. A mighty wizard like Patchouli should mitigate the damage to a 2-digit sum, no problem. What you also need to know is that Encroaching Nightmare is a dual elemental attack of Mystic and Darkness properties. Through equipment, you should bolster both of these resistances, as it seems the one you're more vulnerable to will be targeted. Lastly, every attack in the game has a final damage multiplier, and for Encroaching Nightmare, it is a brutal 240%. That's why it's important to have this aimed at a character that mitigates most of it. Even Shrine Maiden Reimu, who I think we never even switched in this encounter, wouldn't cut it. I expect such spells with an excessively high final damage multiplier will be pretty common in the full game. In Labyrinth of Touhou 2, you had Komachi who would survive anything and everything, but now, a tank who works solely on having a massive hit point pool will fear these moves in particular. Our other newcomer Aya is someone we've barely mentioned. At these early levels, the Tengu will seem pretty underwhelming, as she's missing the ability to force the turns of her companions on a whim. That skill will return at some point. For now, she only raises the speed of others slightly whenever she gets a turn. It is certainly looking dire for our MP reserves. Renko should have supported Patchouli a little more than Alice, as we were just a single MP short of casting another spell Nuke. As said, using focus on someone like Patchy is really inefficient. When in doubt, a standard magic attack will suffice. Just as the boss is nearing his demise, we run into another case of spectacularly bad luck. Patchouli survives Encroaching Nightmare like a champ, but still suffered the silence ailment from it. Now that we finally have the necessary MP, we still can't use our big guns. At this point, I felt it best to somehow whittle down the boss's last few hit points, no matter the cost. Sure, it makes the climax of it all a bit desperate, but this attempt was still worlds apart from my first original passing try against the Shikigami Master. Know that upon his death, the remaining minions do not vanish. You could still wipe from them, and I once almost did. Said first try had Alice as the sole survivor after the last Katashiro blew Patchouli to smithereens. Compared to that, this victory was squeaky clean. The Shikigami Master is overall quite unpleasant, as you have limited resistance gear, few solutions against ailments, and less mages to damage him than you'd want. You might not even have Patchouli. She gets recruited once you have a character with 8 library levels in each stat. You have to put a lot of eggs in one basket to achieve that. Hopefully that will be adjusted for the full version, so that the recruitment comes more naturally. Don't know about you, but I'm getting sick of fighting these shades. The next boss doesn't have to be all that thematically different from the Shikigami Master. It could be a foxy lady, and I'd be happy. With that, I'm Gesh86, this was the demo of Labyrinth of Touhou Try. Bis bald!